All right, we are live on Unchained Live Talk with an incredible panel of guests and a fabulous subject. We're having a meetup at the intersection of Black Lives Matter and veganism because these two parallel social justice movements correlate in a lot of ways, and they can get bigger if they unite. So we've got the amazing Omowale Adewale. He's the guy in the face mask. We've got Naijha Wright-Brown from Land of Kush. That's her incredible restaurant in Baltimore, Maryland. And she is also the head of one of the Maryland vegan societies. And we've got the one and only plant-based G.
What's happening?
All right. He's just come out with an ebook called Quarantine 15. We're going to find out all about that. So let me ask you, Omowale, you're very involved in the Black Lives Matter movement. You are also the founder of VegFest. Do you see an intersection where the Black Lives Matter movement and the vegan movement, particularly the Black vegan movement, can meet?
Oh, definitely. Right now with COVID-19, of course, we're focused on getting food to people that is healthy, plant-based, vegan information, to folks. We'll be doing that we're doing another action this Sunday because there were nooses that were found in Van Cortlandt Park. So this is what we do. We go in and we show and we share support. And I think that veganism is a great intersection point for a lot of folks because we're talking about their health. We're talking about lives that are at stake. And we also talking about this planet. So it's very easy to have that conversation. We've done that in Tulsa last week as well, in providing folks the same resources in terms of snacks that are vegan, water, and then the conversation about veganism and why we there to show solidarity with Black people, to let you know wherever we are, we should be supporting right now because we all benefit from justice.
Wow. Now, let me ask you this question. We are talking in different parts of the world. I'm in Los Angeles. Naijha, you're in Maryland. I believe, plant-based G, correct me if I'm wrong, you're in Texas?
Yes, I'm in Dallas.
And you are in the Bronx, my friend.
Yes.
So we've got quite a panoply of locations. We're coast to coast. What strikes me, and it seems like it's so obvious to me, the fast food companies, we don't need to get into brand names for legal reasons. They give money to the forces that oppress those who align with Black Lives Matter. They donate, for example, to the Trump administration. We know this. So why is it that people protest and then they go eat at one of these fast food joints? And let me throw you that question, Naijha.
That's a great question, Jane. Is a very great question. There's a lot of factors when you're looking at it. There's a lot of socioeconomic issues. Fast food chains, they deliver food that's cheap and affordable for families. So a lot of times, you can have all of this protesting and stuff going on, but when you get back home, it's kind of like, okay, what do I eat? If you're not cooking and it's not affordable, then you're going to go to the quickest thing. Now, everybody's not like that. I'm not like that. But that's just the reality. I don't know if the other gentlemen agree with that or have their other statements, but I think, in my opinion, that's what it is. It is cheaper and it is quicker.
Oh my gosh. So plant-based G, how are you navigating this territory with your new book, Quarantine 15, and what does it mean?
Well, I'm doing well, doing great. As far as the cookbook goes, the name of it is Quarantine 15. And the name of it kind of came from whenever everything was put on lockdown. And I found myself in a situation where I had more time at home to think about a variety of things. And also I was considering, what could I contribute? What could I get back during this downtime that I had, especially in my evenings? And I do a lot of cooking, obviously vegan food. So I wanted to make sure that, I was maximizing every minute that I had. So I put together a cookbook, kind of a guide to help people out, especially, obviously people who aren't as familiar with the vegan lifestyle, giving them some healthy options that they could turn to as far as one, eating healthier, but two, eliminating all of the, things that we do harming and hurting animal and contributing to animal agriculture. And as far as the question that you asked just a second ago, as far as corporations contributing to Black Lives Matter and a bunch of these other movements, it's definitely a backward situation that's taking place, where some of those same organizations that are contributing are the same ones who've been killing us for years. So I think what it shows is there are a lot of tentacles and there are a lot of problems that have to be addressed when we talk about systemic racism, whether it's the education system, whether it's the food system, whether it's socioeconomic issues. There are a variety of things that have to be looked at, have to be addressed. So one of them that I've kind of taken a aggressive stance on is speaking to more people of color as far as the foods that we should be eating, while also making sure to point out all of those corporations and organizations who quote unquote call themselves contributing to help eliminate the problem. Some of those are actually contributing by some of the things that they're doing within these neighborhoods where you've got predominantly people of color who are suffering from illnesses that are food related.
No, but what I'm saying, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is historically, year after year, and Dr. Milton Mills made this point.
Yes.
These fast food giants contribute to Republican candidates, the Trump, they are huge backers of the Trump. I'm talking about the major fried chicken fast food places.
Yeah.
Burger joints. I don't want to get into brand names.
Yeah.
We all know who they are.
Yeah. Right. Jane, we have one right next door to us.
Just finish my thought, because I think it's the key. Mm-hmm. Money talks in this society. Consumer power talk. We just started a boycott meat campaign with workers advocates in Iowa who are joining and boycotting meat, not because they're vegans for their health, although they're now learning about that, but because they're standing in solidarity with the slaughterhouse workers who are dying inside the slaughterhouses of COVID-19, who are almost exclusively people of color, the workers, not the managers, who come from Latin America, but also 30 countries, including many African countries, and speak 30 languages in one slaughterhouse alone. So they asked us to form a coalition with them to boycott meat. And we now have a whole campaign that I would like to invite all of you to join. It's boycottmeat.com. We are having roundtables every Monday here on Jane Unchained with the workers' advocates. They are union advocates. They may not be officially aligned with a particular union, but they work with the workers. They know the workers who are dying. So they're boycotting meat for their reason. What I'm suggesting is, and I'd love you to address this, Naijha, is whereas these fast food companies make the minority population sick with heart disease, obesity, and all sorts of problems, whereas they're contributing to the political forces that have now, I think we can come out and say it, expressed racist sentiments. Wherefore shouldn't we advocate for a meat boycott and a boycott of fast food? Naijha.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Jane. Again, it's a behavioral issue. We have, the fast food places next to our restaurant, and our marketing strategy is to try to reel people in, because we have the pamphlets and guides that help and educate people on why they need to be eating better and all of those type of reasons. The people have to want to do it. So we can educate, but you're not forcing anyone to do anything. You see what I'm saying? So it just really depends on that individual and what their state of mind is at that time. So the information is there, the reasoning is there, but they have to want to do it.
Well, Omowale, I'd like you to weigh in on that.
I think right now, I agree with Naijha to an extent. I think right now, when we look at all these different fast food restaurants, these big corporations, they're already pushing their agenda. They are. They pay dollars and they dominate the airwaves. So we need to be careful, and we watch that. The billboards, they are coming in and they are pushing their agenda on there. When they come in as with their lobbyists, and I know, you know, some of these lobbyists, and we've come head to head, you know, number of times. And so when they have their lobbyists that go to the elected officials and bog down the phones, I've worked for elected officials. I know who calls on a regular basis. I run these political campaigns. I know who, you know, we're up against. They very much do force folks. And we don't have the resources. We don't have the dollars at the same time. But we do have the people. We do have the man, the woman power to push these pieces forward, and we just can't be. We cannot be afraid. But we also need to recognize the intersectionality that's happening, where there are workers who recognize that, hey, you know, my worker rights are being trampled on, and so therefore there's an intersection with their work and where they are killing or maiming, you know, animals. And so they come to this conclusion that maybe we actually need to get behind vegans and boycott meat, right? And so there's different other intersections as well. Of course, the Black community, you know, as well, we recognize that a lot of these fast food restaurants love to seek safe haven in our community, and they're looking for more support from us financially. We financially support them because what are the other options? And I'm gonna give you an example when we talk about, you know, well, we can just go somewhere else. Let me tell you why that's not right. 100 years ago in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, it's the North Greenwood district. They had a grocery store that was Black owned. They had a community garden that was Black owned, but really farms. Now they don't have community garden. Now they don't have a grocery store, and they're trying to get one in 2021, but it's not going to be Black owned. So this idea that we just need to push it and we just need to financialize and throw money at it, no, we have to come with some socioeconomic solutions, and then we can financialize the situation, but we cannot just come in there thinking economics. We cannot come in there thinking that, hey, let's be on the same page. No, we need to do exactly what we're doing right now, where the protesters are leading this energy. When we hear from the protesters on the ground, they're making inroads, you know, to the elected officials. We're changing policies. We're making sure they defund the police. We're making sure that the protesters have on masks, because we're giving out masks. They have the vegan snacks. We need to be in mass on the street in terms of mobilizing, but we also need to be critically aware exactly how this is actually happening in our community. And I think that we need to stop blaming the community, because I just told you about Black Wall Street. Exactly. When we talk about Black Wall Street, like, that was bombed. Right. That was bombed. Yeah. So we had money there. You know what I mean? Let's get out of that idea. Black Wall Street, Black VegFest, we do successful. Vegan Soul Fest, they are successful. Black folks come out to both of them. Let's get this narrative and throw it away that Black people won't come. No, we don't get the resources. We don't get the support that we need. We could be on the ground. We could be active. We could be mobilized. Let's mobilize folks that are on this call right now.
Yeah, and please understand, there's no blame here. This is an invitation to join a coalition that is brand new. We just had a news conference, and it went out to more than 100 media mentions. Dr. Milton Mills was a participant, along with Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and a variety of other groups, PETA, the SAVE movement. And we joined with these representatives of workers in Iowa, people who are dying. They came to us and they said, we want to join with you because our workers are dying. They're dying and nobody seems to care. So all I'm saying is, in a society where money talks, to have a broad coalition to boycott meat that would include the African-American community, I think that would be super powerful.
I agree.
I could say in our city here, because we've worked with organizations like PCRM, the Black Vegetarian Society of Maryland, in endorsing letters to the USDA to change food policies in the school, because lunches in the school obviously aren't the best lunches, and they do contain meat. So those are some of the things that we do on our end, because you have to get local and state government involved. And that's the level that I was in Annapolis earlier this year, testifying against why we need to have this type of food in the schools and the prisons and the hospitals. So everyone is playing their role on different levels. So the coalitions are fine and they're great. Again, to Omowale's point, we got to change the narrative because, people are doing something. They're doing what they can.
What do you think, Plant-Based G?
Yeah, well, I agree with what everyone is saying for the most part, but definitely it's got to take place on a local level. Everything from, especially when you start looking at your schools and what they feed kids. I know one issue that I've run into as far as my kids go and looking at the foods that they eat. It's difficult trying to get to either a point person who can make a decision or the correct person whenever you're dealing with school districts. But there are ways to actually go around that when you start looking at charter schools, when you start looking at private schools, when you start looking at other avenues that we could go to set examples for how things could be done correctly. I know of a couple of charter schools here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who actually have gardens on site that are in urban neighborhoods too. So you've got places that are actually able to do that. Unfortunately, they're not under that government control. That's where we're really needing to see that, because the school districts are the ones with well over 100,000 kids. That's where a majority of the impact is taking place. My mother is a retired principal, so she is extremely familiar with food and how it can negatively impact kids. So I think on a local level, each one of us has to take a look at it and say, what is it that I can contribute first as parents and as community members, but also we've got to talk to teachers. We've got to talk to principals. We've got to talk to every single individual on a local level. That's how we'll have the manpower, as my brother was saying, to really defeat the system and force changes to take place.
Can I just add to that? Because my daughter goes to a private independent school. It's a vegetarian school, but it's the only vegetarian school in the city of Baltimore. And I'll shout them out. It's the New Century School. So they're getting there. And we come in every year and make vegan pancakes. And the kids love it. So those are steps that and we go into schools and introduce the food and the possibility of this being a reality. It is real. If one school can do it, the other ones can too. I'm not sure what the issue is, but these are the steps that we need to take. We just have to be the example and keep working at it.
I feel like the coronavirus is a huge opportunity for us to make change. For example, the dairy industry is in severe trouble. Why? Because schools have been closed and kids aren't being force-fed cow's milk, which they are mostly, almost exclusively allergic to. We're not cows. None of us should be drinking the breast milk of another species. So this is a unique opportunity for us to bust open the society, almost like if you're playing pool and you hit something and then all the balls go in different direction. I was just watching on Netflix yesterday, or Amazon Prime, one of them, about the plague in the Middle Ages and how society completely changed after the plague. It was a feudalistic society before the plague. Then the plague hit. Half of the population of Europe died, one half. And after that, it was a totally different system because the old order completely collapsed. So I see this and my heart goes out to everybody who's suffering. I don't want a coronavirus. I think that what we're doing as vegans is preventing hopefully the next pandemic, because these are zoonotic diseases that started with the abuse of animals, and we don't abuse animals. So we've been beating our chest for decades saying, stop with the factory farming, stop with the wet markets, stop with the slaughterhouses. If we were a plant-based society, we wouldn't have this pandemic today. That's for sure. So that being said, Adewale, what do you see as opportunities now that society has sort of been rent open by this crisis?
Well, COVID-19 presents an incredible resource for us. Well, one, and we can kind of see that right now. We just kind of sit back and relax. In terms of my own microcosm, like me and my partner, we're growing food. Onions, garlic, up to mangoes and avocado, and trying to also give that information, out to folks, and allows folks to kind of just take a step back and see exactly what we're doing. And then now we've been in this strategizing process. And that's what it sounds like, that we're in this particular strategizing process for the new, for the new years to come. And right now, I think that we're doing pretty good. And I think that I'll say again, the leadership of the protesters right now are literally changing that. And I'm saying protesters, I include myself there as a protester. We protested, we rallied in Tulsa when 45 was going to come. We've been in Harlem, we've been in Brooklyn, we'll be in Bronx next tomorrow actually. And just being on the ground and communicating with the community, and we're working with vegans on a regular basis. So this local action, just like plant-based G was saying, the local connections, with people, connect within your own area where you feel that there needs to be change, and listen what the protesters are saying right now.
I want to ask you a follow-up question on that. Maybe everybody can address it. In terms of the leadership of the Black Lives Matter movement, is there an attempt to confab with them to show that veganism is taking the power back? That's how I see it. Veganism, much talks in our society, veganism, take the power back. And
I can speak to that.
I'll use an analogy with the climate strike and the climate save movements. Obviously, animal agriculture is there's a new white paper says the leading cause of greenhouse gas emissions. It's not disputed. It's the leading cause of habitat destruction, wildlife extinction, human world hunger, blah, blah, blah. So you try to talk to the climate people, right? They want to save the climate. Well, the leaders should be vegan. Well, Greta Thunberg is vegan. Right. But some of the ones down the road, down the line are not, and they're actually quite resistant to the issue. So I think there's a parallel there.
Very much so.
It's the same thing with the women's movement. I went to the women's march as a vegan woman and a gay woman, and I marched. And I noticed with some of the women, they were, this one woman in particular ordered a chicken, Big John chicken. She didn't touch it. She left it there. And I said, if we're talking about respect and compassion, can we expand that a little past our own fingertips and look at that? And she had there was no connection. Connection.
Jane, they have to be psychologically ready to accept that as the priority. And I think that's the issue here. Everyone is looking at priorities differently. So we can be all day here. Okay, stop this feeding our children to dairy in the communities because we know it's killing them and it's making them sick. But the government has to make that a priority. And if they're not making it a priority, why is that? Is it about money? Is it because capitalism trumps all of this that we're talking about?
Capitalism, it's corporate socialism.
Whatever it is, it's trumping what needs to happen.
The industry would not exist today if it wasn't completely 100% propped up by the U.S. government, which creates cheese caves and shoves dairy down the throats of school kids, prisoners, and people in various institutions. The consumers are moving away from dairy, but they prop it up. They also give billions of dollars in subsidies to these.
But why is that? And how are we going to stop? How do we do that?
Politics. It boils down to politics. This is
you got to take it to Annapolis, or you got to take it to the Capitol.
Booker has proposed a bill that would end factory farming, and Jane and Elizabeth Warren just signed on.
I'm glad you said that. Is he going to be one of the runners in the Democratic or the Republican? You see what I'm saying? Like, is he going to be voted in as president so he can make this move?
Well, he's not in the race anymore.
Not in the race.
That's where I'm going with all of this. Like, this problem is way bigger than us. It is so huge that on the grassroots level, we need to do what we can do to push the needle. And if everybody does that, we can make some moves. But again, this is a big, big issue. It's bigger than all of us on this digital channel.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. And what I was going to say right quick, Jane, it's interesting as we talk about the intersection of all of this. And I've spoke to a number of Black and white people as far as the Black Lives Matter movement goes. And so speaking about veganism, I asked them to give them kind of an analogy. I say, hey, so if you were getting ready to train for a championship fight, how would you approach that? And most people respond and say, well, I'm going to run, I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat well. I said, well, that's what we're in right now. We are in a championship fight right now where we need for you to be in the best condition you can possibly be for as long as possible to see the success of what we're trying to do. So that starts off with the food that you put into your mouth, the food that you bring into your home. That's what I try to explain to people as far as a logical reason to consider a plant-based vegan lifestyle. I've had a few people who they didn't think about it like that until I broke it down in those terms. But I said, hey, I'd like for you to be here long enough to see this end up being successful. But if you keep eating the way you're eating, you won't be able to see that. So with that being said, I think there are a variety of ways and things that we need to talk to people about. We need to mention to them to get them to think about not only what we're doing as far as the Black Lives Movement goes, but also what can you do to be a better and healthier individual, but also a more compassionate person for all living beings.
Right. It starts with the individual. And I'm glad you said it starts with the individual.
Absolutely.
We have to work within so we can get what we need out of them.
There you go.
Yeah. I also want to say, when you see Black VegFest, we are part of a Black Lives Movement, Black Lives Matter, and we also focusing on veganism at the same time. So there's policy. I can't go on and speak on to everything, but we are working on policy, issues right now. I don't know too many other, the organizations that we'll be working with that are out there throughout the country, but in every single state, there are folks that are pushing this particular movement. But in terms of veganism, we've definitely been on it locally as a group, and we'll be pushing forward. But right now, there's climate change, initiatives that we're working with the congressional leaders, like AOC is one of the folks. And we're trying to help them understand what legislation that needs to be out there, so whether we're talking about, animals, when we talk about animals, a lot of times, like we have so much dependency on animals, exploitation, in this country that it's a difficult conversation.
Right. Exactly. So, that's where I'm going with it.
So, but we need to be strategic. Right. You cannot, I'm not going to go to somebody who's homeless and just automatically go and start talking to them about veganism and animal suffering. You just have to be tactical, right? If somebody's been doing this for 30, 40 years and eating on this Western diet, then you just yelling at them that's not gonna work, right? So we know that, but we know that like organizations like Chili's on Wheels definitely does give food. We do that work and we give food. There's other folks, Woke Foods, that's in the Bronx. We're based in Brooklyn. I happen to be out here because, my comrade is trying to move, but we're all around trying to make sure that we answer this with solutions in the best possible way. Right. You know what I mean? So that we veganize. Like sometimes when Black VegFest came out and we were talking about, veganizing the Black community, people didn't want to talk about, the Black in it, but you got to be strategic. Like, why do you want to go ahead and, you're not going to be able to get Black folks to be vegan the same way you are with the Main Street group if you already not been trying to access and inform the Black community, right?
It's all marketing. It's all of this is marketing, and we have to be strategic with the markets with that we're trying to target this message. The same thing with Vegan Soul Fest. There was a need to have a Black festival catering to the demographic that represents Baltimore City. And that's what we did. And the people loved it, whether they were vegan-ish, vegetarian, whatever the issue was, people loved it. And we weren't pushing commercial products down their throat. We were pushing basic things: fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, beans, legumes. That's it. Just have a smoothie. You're still contributing to the reduction of consuming animals if you just keep it on a basic level and not shoving commercial products down people's throats. You see what I'm saying? So everyone has a different strategy.
Well, for sure, nobody can accuse this group of being low energy.
Not at all.
You have a lot of energy for this.
It's a big fight.
It's a big fight.
I think that huge strides have been made. Look at Tabitha Brown. She is like my favorite person. She's so funny. her carrot bacon got, last I checked, 12 million views. Now Ellen has signed her. She's a big star now. We know that African Americans are the fastest growing segment of people converting, the demographic converting to veganism.
Right.
So I just think it's about acknowledging what's really happening and providing visibility to what is actually already in progress, plant-based food.
Absolutely. And one thing that I try to talk to, especially, my fellow Black people about is, when we start looking at issues that we're fighting, that we're dealing with from a socioeconomic standpoint, one of the issues is we don't live long enough to really bear the fruits of our labor. So if we're dying earlier than most groups, if we're not able to live as fruitful, as full lives as most, we're not going to be able to really fulfill some of those socioeconomic goals that we've set in place. So we've got to look at what are the foods that we're bringing into our households? What are the foods that we're feeding to our children, that we're feeding to other young people? How are we educating them on how to live their best lives based upon what they put inside their body? So there are a variety of things. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
With the candy.
Yes, absolutely. And for whatever reason, it's one of those things that from a cultural standpoint, it's just what we do. I remember going to church as a kid. Every time we would find some of the elders within the church, we'd immediately run up to them and say, do you have any candy? Next thing you know, we're all walking around with handfuls of Reese's, Snickers, all types of things. Now, granted, it was based in love in terms of why they were giving us that, but we've got to reprogram ourselves as to what it is we really need to be doing in order to live healthier lives. But more importantly, how do we teach these kids to live the healthiest lives they possibly can?
Right. They're coming after us.
The
thing is that these companies, with advertisers, a morally bankrupt system, are pretending that they're on the side of the communities of color. They get millions of kids sick with obesity, heart disease, and diabetes, and then they also have something that says we help kids, and they do an ad about that.
But Jane,
and they do an ad about I don't know what's going on.
Listen, I'm in the park, so
that's no different than what's going on in the society as a whole. I mean, we understand what happened in this country with slavery and all of this other stuff, and now we have all these organizations that want to help. You know what I'm saying? We know what the issue is. Everybody wants to clean up the issue, but they started the problem.
Right. And one of the bigger issues is as they want to clean up, they also want to win and make money off of that.
Right.
So with that, so the thing is, how genuine is their help? Genuine is their help?
I don't think there's anything genuine about anything that corporations do. They do it literally as a mathematical model. Okay. And they're game theory, they're value neutral. And so that's why I always keep coming back to money. Yes. Just stop giving them money. Let me give you an example. I've also been in this movement for 30 some years and vegan 25 years, going on 25 years, maybe 24. I wish I had my vegan date the way I have my sobriety date. I'm 25 years sober, and I went vegan about a year after I got sober. But the point is that for years I was the freak, the outcast. I worked in major media newsrooms around the country, national cable, syndicated TV, local news. I was the crazy one. All of a sudden, Beyond Meat had the IPO, the initial public offering, the most successful one since 2008. Yes. And people were texting me from my old world. You were really ahead of your time with that thing.
When you stand out, you're always ahead of your time. And that's what people need to understand.
But what my takeaway was, money is what they value. If it's making money, they take it seriously.
Yes.
Losing you money, they take it seriously. That's the only value that the corporations really have at the end of the day. What is going to make them money?
The return on investment, yes.
If I was a fast food industry titan and I saw that, oh my God, our biggest consumer base, people of color, have now started a boycott meat campaign, I would get those veggie burgers cooking real fast.
Absolutely.
I would get rid of some of the worst you know what, that they sell, and they're just boxes. This is what frustrates me. I see these boxes and I say, you know, you could actually turn those boxes into healthy boxes. But as long as we're giving them money, they will not change. They are only going to be motivated by one thing. That's my personal philosophy.
Right. But the foundation of that is culture. A lot of our culture is based around this type of eating. If you think of Thanksgiving and all of these family reunions, get together. So food is a social thing. And if this is what the culture is familiar with, it does take time for a family member like myself and my husband to go into the family and basically like, look, this is what we have, the collard greens without all of that other stuff in it. So we have evolved in that space with our family where now they're ordering the collard greens. And then you see what I'm saying? It's a process.
And that's why Gray's video of a vegan Thanksgiving is one of my favorite videos of all time, because he shattered that myth. So I see you're on the move again, Adewale.
It's Omowale. I have to correct you this time.
Oh, I'm sorry, Adewale.
That's all right.
Adewale.
I told Jay to call you Wale.
Yeah, call me Wale. Call me Wale.
Wale, I got you, Wale.
There you go.
Thank you. Well, people mess up my name all the time. They're like, "Oh, you're Joan Valdez-Mendez." I'm like, "Oh, sorry about that. I will call you.
Don't
Wale.
worry.
I'll call you Wally." So let's do final thoughts. What do you think? What's first of all, none of these are mutually exclusive. We could do them all simultaneously, and you know, it's not an either or. And I also want to say one other thing. Some of the best breakthroughs that we've had at Jane Unchained, coming up with new ideas, have been on live videos, having conversations like this, because it focuses the mind, and people really come up with new ideas. And so let's do final thoughts. I'm going to say my final thought is I'm inviting everybody here to be part of the Boycott Meat Coalition. If you'd like to join, we are going to be doing live roundtables like this every Monday at 3:00 Pacific. So if you guys are in, let me know and we will book you one after the other every Monday. And then that's my final thought. I think there's power in numbers. Absolutely. Go ahead, Wale. Give us your final thoughts.
So right now, I'll say one more time that, you know, the protesters, listen to the protesters right now. When you see protests, first understand that they formulate that at tables, on the phone. There's meeting, there's planning that happens before that. People don't just come out on the street and they're just out there just kind of moving. And it's almost like I kind of sense that, but I also forget that doing that for like 20 something years and organizing, like it takes planning, it takes mistakes coming back to the table. It takes a lot of analysis as well. And veganism is coming in incredibly strong within the Black Lives Matter movement. When we're, you know, handing out snacks, comrades in the Bronx, as soon as we bring up the conversation that maybe we should be giving people healthier food if we're making healthier changes here, right? And then people are for it. So don't think that people are not for it. Then they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's great, but I don't know, what are the steps to getting the healthy food? Who can actually get it? Oh, okay, Black VegFest is going to come from Brooklyn. So we're going to get the food. We'll get it up to you. Oh, you can have some of the resources. So this is what this is happening. This is happening in New York City for tomorrow's action. And so there are actions every single day for right now, this particular movement. It's a huge movement. It's a movement that touched 50 states. We can get veganism on the agenda for all the 50 states. That is possible. I am for the boycott. I want to say that lastly. Yeah.
Yay!
I've been boycotting them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're
You know,
doing a decades-long boycott.
right.
Yes. Plant-based G.
Similar to my man Wale, obviously I've been down with the boycott. My vegan anniversary will be in July, but in terms of for me, you know, it all starts at a grassroots level. You know, I think every person that we come in contact with, we've got to have more conversations about not only the Black Lives Movement, but also health overall, veganism overall, being more compassionate. And then also conveying to people that we're not coming to you from a level or from a place of aggression. This is all from love. I tell people up front, especially my men friends who, they kind of have this, idea that, being vegan isn't manly. I'm like, look, first and foremost, this is all based upon love, not only love for myself, love for my fellow humans, but love for all life in general. So with that being said, if you've got that type of heart, you've got to consider this as a viable option. You absolutely have to consider this. Most men that I speak to, especially being a reasonable, gregarious guy, at least pay attention and listen. So I think we've got to have more difficult conversations, uncomfortable conversations, but make sure that they know the basis of everything we do is because we love them and we want the best for them.
And that's another lie perpetuated by the meat and dairy industry that somehow, men who don't eat animals and don't kill animals are less manly. That is a very primitive mindset, but they condition. One of the reasons I'm hopeful for change is that young people don't watch TV. When the TV's on, I just see meat, dairy, pharmaceutical. Meat, dairy, pharmaceutical. That's why they don't talk about it. But the kids, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Snapchat. They're not watching that garbage. Your final thought, Naijha?
My final thought is folks need to be watching me on NaijhaSpeaks.com, where we're having all of these conversations, Black and vegan. So definitely follow me, NaijhaSpeaks.com. And thank you, Jane, for allowing me the platform to share and have those discussions as well. And we're doing it here at the Land of Kush. We've been boycotting meat ever before we open, and we got to include the dairy and the eggs in there because those are the two that really kill you.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, they're deadly. Well, listen, I am so inspired. And are you on board with the boycott? I want to put you on the spot, Naijha.
Oh, yeah, come on, let's go.
Okay.
I thought you already put me in there.
Yeah.
And when you go plant-based, if anybody is watching isn't plant-based, you have a lot of energy like we do. Okay, thank you so much. Incredible panel. I love you all. Carry on.
Love you,
Thanks,
Jane.
Jane. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right.
I'd love to. I'll reach out.
All right. That was good, Jane.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Okay, bye.
Bye.
That was fun.